Good evening. We are the group tonight because we have three members that are not coming.
Okay.
So I evidently Stephanie's in LA, Chris is in Costa Rica, and Jody said she couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
So we will be small.
Get focused.
Helena, do you have your microphone in?
No.
Okay. So I'm curious. I'm on a new computer and I'm wondering, does it sound the same, look the same? Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious too, because I'm wondering, to me, you sound fine, Jamie, but you're not using a head. You're just using the microphone and the computer, right?
Right.
It sounds great. But Helena, when you do that, it doesn't sound as good as when
So
you use.
she has a bad speaker or something.
Oh, okay.
How is it now, Jean?
Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah.
So I just put the microphone in. I just have a separate microphone, which I
No,
just plug into the side of the computer
Yeah.
because my speaker on my computer is awful.
okay.
Yeah. And I had an external mic and I couldn't really tell the difference. In fact, I liked the computer mic better. So
Yeah. So you've got your new computer.
yeah,
You
it
like
was
it?
yeah, it was a hand-wringing event, but I'm there. I'm there. So
Hmm.
anyway, good to see you. I thought we would start by just doing a little roundup from last week, like the five levels of development and any
Yeah.
thoughts or
Do you
um
want to do a little check-in with everybody?
yes, yeah,
Yep.
let's let's do that first. So it's very windy and dry here. So
Okay. Well, I'll go, I
okay.
guess.
Okay.
I've had an incredibly busy week with all kinds of levels of different things going on, and it's been amazing. So today I'm just kind of like, okay, I need to just stop. Um, so my friend, my godson's mom, husband died of a heart attack um, last Saturday. So they had a wake for him on Thursday, I think, so which I went to. And then on Sunday afternoon, they had a celebration of life. So I went to that. And before I went to that, I did a constellation introductory kind of thing on Friday night. I did a constellation for people on Wednesday morning. And then on Sunday morning, I drove up to LA to Pacific Palisades, where all the fires were, and did a constellation for my death and dying friend who does death doula work. She was doing a training. So I did that and then drove back to the celebration of life. So I'm like,
That's a lot and probably a
a
lot of
lot,
emotional.
there's a lot of emotional stuff. And it was all good. A lot of it was good, really good. And the things that I've done extra constellations. I did 3 constellation workshops last week.
Yeah, I want to check in with you on your Friday night thing, see how it went.
It was really good. It went really,
Good.
really. And then I have the one of the women who came to that, she found me through the woman who has that place where I had the workshop. And she has a TV show on YouTube called Tapping In, and I'm going to do it next week.
Yay.
So all these people are coming to me, which is really interesting. Don't know what happened, but something happened.
No, I really think energetically, if you get into that center, that vortex, as Esther Hicks Abraham
Yeah,
calls it,
yeah.
um, it's magnetic. You're
So
magnetic.
yeah, so I'm kind of excited, and people were really saying how much they liked the work and everything. So I'm chuffed. As we would
Okay.
say in Scotland, I'm chuffed.
Chuffed. Okay.
Chuffed.
Okay, Jean, how are you?
Um, I'm good, sort of the opposite of Helena. I've been not feeling so well, and I had intestinal issues. So I just pretty much had to spend 2 days near a toilet, just couldn't go too far. And but also just fatigue, like debilitating fatigue, where it's hard to focus, it's hard to move, just to get the minimum done. So I'm behind in all my emails. I didn't do the homework, all that kind of stuff. Like
Okay.
that's what it's been like for me.
It's funny, you look really present.
Thank you. Yeah, today I'm feeling better now than I have all day. But I think it's too, I like the energy of the group too. Like when
Yeah.
I know my energy lifts up when there's something I really love, then I can be there. But the minute this shuts down, I'll be like, so thanks.
Okay, so let me just ask you, is there anything you're not doing that you need to do? I mean, what, like energetically, what's
I don't know. I've been curious about why this intestinal issue, why the fatigue, and it's been an ongoing, like trying different things. I've been eating super healthy, trying to do activity when I'm not completely wiped out.
uh-huh.
And so yeah, and then there's the mental, like, what is this? Is this all psychosomatic, and are you just not, oh
We
my,
don't want to do that.
right.
But at the
And
same time, if there's something that we're missing, it'd be good to check in. I'd be happy to chat with you. Some,
okay,
if you want, or we could look at the board or something.
sure.
So,
Just want to ask you, how's your EMF exposure, Jean?
I don't know. I'm not right near the highway. I'm not near like a power plant or big lines that I can see.
How's it in your house? Where do you
Um,
put your phone when you charge your phone?
well, sometimes I do when I'm having trouble sleeping, I'll put a meditation on, so I'll have it next to me, which I know is not
Take it
good.
away. Take it away. That would be my first step. And
Okay.
unplug as much as you can in your bedroom.
I generally don't have anything in my bedroom except, like I said, when I'm having trouble
Relax.
sleeping in. But I do try to leave my computer turned off and my phone in the living room.
mhm.
I would take your phone out of your bedroom.
Yeah, I generally do.
Yes.
So um,
I'm sure there could be other things.
I've been having insomnia, so I'll be super tired, lay down, and then I'm just like, after flipping for an hour, I'm like, give me that phone in a meditation, right? I can't stand it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a challenge that way. Like, because if I don't have the phone, then I just flip all night, and I don't. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Kelsey, how are you?
I'm good. Um, I've kind of felt magnetic myself a little bit at this new job I started recently. So that's been nice.
Yeah. Hey.
But I've been really enjoying it. And the other day I just like stood and was drawing on like this the pastry case. And it's just like a clear case where you put pastries. And we write on the front of it with chalk markers. And I just stood there drawing, and it was really slow. And my two coworkers were just letting me do it. The one of them was like, I'm gonna go. I was gonna make you clean the bathrooms, but I'm gonna go do it myself because I'm bored." And I'm like, "Okay." And so then I just keep drawing. And I did that all the way till I was gonna clock out, like till the end of my shift. And I clocked out and I kept drawing. I was making it like little falling like tulip petals, and I liked it. Anyways, so
Uh-huh. Good.
that's me.
Okay. Well, I've still been doing a lot of learning with the computer programs, but I feel like a genius. Like I'm getting it, you know. And then a lot of times when I start feeling like a genius, then something happens where I'm not so genius. Keeps me humble. So Well, good. So let me ask, did anybody get a chance to review the video I sent, or so we are on square one?
We're on
Okay.
square one today.
Okay.
Sorry, feel bad.
That's okay. I understand life can be very hectic.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do tonight was, and we can just sort of slowly practice with each other, but I'll start by just going over the eye movements. Okay. And this set of skills is, it is like we've talked about before, when you're fully engaged, you don't notice, So it's a kind of practice thing that we need to really work with intentionally. And so I want to talk a little bit about why. Like, why would we do that? Why do you even care? You know? And so next week we're going to go into how to ask good questions, and everything that we're doing, the observation skills, the asking questions, everything we're doing, the learning about judgment versus sensory-based information, is about being open to however a person has their world mapped, and not imprinting our map on theirs, but having the right questions and the right observational skills to be able to see when subtle things shift. When a question, it's just like in constellation work, when we're talking to a representative and you give them a sentence and they go, no, that's not the right one. So you're learning to observe at that level. The other thing is it really can explain relationships. It can really explain those relationships that you struggle with and those relationships that are really easy. And normally it's almost like this brain processing is a language you speak, and you look for people that speak your language. And so I want to go through those, and I'll just treat it like brand new then, since we did you have a chance to print out the little chart? Okay.
Did that. I can't find my book. I'm just looking for my notebook, and
Okay, we'll just go
I'll
through it.
listen to you. I'm just listening to you, but I'm going to go just look one more place, but I can hear you.
I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you can expand it so we don't see all the border, like
Yeah, good idea. That's what happens when I like
That little up arrow above the ruler looking thing will close the tools.
the
So
little
it's
up arrow.
on the right side of the screen above the ruler. That little guy
And
will give
then
us more
this
space.
one I can, whoops. It won't let me move it up. But I think we can do what we need to do with this. And
but
then
that's better already anyway.
huh?
That's better already anyway. Thank you.
Okay. And then I like to be able to see you guys.
So you sent us this, so I have this somewhere. So
Yeah,
okay.
and I really suggest you print it out and carry it around for a while, or just draw it out even on a note card, because you want to get it so that you're automatically recognizing what they're doing. And then we'll do some practice tonight. And the movements, so we start out by saying there's three main representational systems: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. But the important information here really comes in how people sequence. So nobody does just one. But once we sort of get this into our own neural networks, you'll be able to both listen for and watch, and if with practice, you'll be able to hear how people are sequencing. Like if you're around me very much, you would know that I very often will say something like, well, I need to see how I feel. And I'm just handing you information about me. Oh, she needs to see how she feels. That tells me that the visual and the kinesthetic are very connected. Some people might say I need to take a look at this and then talk it over with myself. So they're giving you exact information about stored material in the brain. This guy looks a little sad. I've done better faces than this one. It looks a little like,
So so in the last example, I need to take a look at it and talk to myself about it.
yeah,
Would it be auditory?
right.
Okay.
So let me just run through them because there's also, these are very, very broad generalizations, but the visual, so when you're like, if you want, can you see me on my screen pretty good?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll take my glasses off for a minute. So if you're watching me, the movement is very quick. It's up left. And what I'm doing is retrieving pictures. So I'm retrieving images that have been stored and bringing them into my visual field a little bit, like, oh, a brown dog, oh, a yellow car. And the image, as soon as I say those words, the brain will go offer that up. And so the visual access, and there's more depth, but I didn't want to go too depth. But to the left is visual remembered or recalled, and some people have a pretty strong. To the right would be reconstructed or constructed images. And then there's what.
What's an example of that?
Okay, so like I have a sister that's a designer, interior designer, and she can walk into a room and remake the whole room. Like even, like if I want to move if I want to see how my room would look with a different furniture arrangement, I have to move everything. you know, she has a very strong visual construct, and she can just go, oh, this would, if the walls were this color and the carpet was this color and this was this and this was this, it would look like this. And she's spot on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And
And that would be her looking up to the right.
up to the right. And I should have put those on there, and I can adjust it because it is interesting. You don't see it a lot, but sometimes people will just go straight up. So it's a little varied, and a lot of times, sometimes they'll do, like if you ask me a question and you get this sort of 100-yard stare, like they just look like they zoned out. That's very often they're putting those images in between you and them. So they're seeing them. So it's either up left or that 100-yard stare. And the visuals, because the brain is so quick, the visuals are usually very fast thinkers. They can even be so fast that they get impatient with people when they don't think fast enough, or they want to finish sentences for people. And it's just boom, boom, boom. It's like if I sat here and just gave you a list of words like kangaroo, fir tree, banana, I get those instantly because everybody here has strong enough visual ability to just bring those images in. And then when they're using that visual recall, they'll also be using visuals will use visual words. Well, let's take a look at it. Let's see if we can figure it out. I need a little more perspective. It appears that, okay, or let's look at it this way. They tell you I need to see pictures. And we're going to practice with this, so we'll have some fun with it. So if you think about, when we did the map of the world, the first session, so this brain stored material can only get there through the five senses. There's no other way to get there. So everything we have stored there are sensory bits, pictures, words, feelings, and tastes and smells. Like I worked with a woman one time, and she was an artist, and I was asking her something, and she could remember the very first box of crayons that she ever opened, and the smell of them. She loved the smell of crayons. And so, for her, that olfactory, that smell was really attached to the box of crayons.
Would that be kinesthetic or?
But she was very kinesthetic. You could almost, so the olfactory, there's no specific eye movement for it. Although a lot of times you'll see movement in the mouth or the nose if people are recalling tastes or smells. You'll actually see them. So the second system is the auditory system. And some people define this as two different auditory types, auditory digital and auditory internal, but I just have them rounded off here for simplicity. So the auditory person, their main way of thinking is self-talk, words in the head. So, and the eye movement is down left. And because the auditory, like if I was to explain to you what my living room looked like, it would take a lot longer than if I just showed you a picture. So it's a much slower way of processing. Those are the ones that the visuals want to finish sentences for, But if you were inside, and there's none of us here are very strong auditory. Kelsey's pretty good. It would sound like they're problem solving. They're actually talking it through. Well, if X equals Y, then this would, and then this would happen. And if I was trying to solve this problem, it's very sequential and happens in words. So my first husband, and we find a lot of engineers, a lot of IT people, a lot of accountants are auditories. It's really blowing out there tonight. So if you, for instance, are a really strong visual and you're married to an auditory, communication may seem really, really hard to do sometimes because you're just literally speaking different language. Like I remember my first husband, Kelsey's grandpa was really auditory. And because they come away, visuals like to have eye contact. I want to see. And the auditory will come away and break eye contact while they're thinking through something. And to a visual, that looks like, oh, he's ignoring me. He's not listening. He doesn't care. Mm-hmm. And then the third system is, and the auditory is also, and I don't know why, for some reason I've met 3 or 4 lately, but there's always a little bit of a hunched over thing. Very often in their bodies, the visuals might be really straight up, and the auditories are kind of curled into themselves a little more. Elena, are you taking a nap?
No, I'm listening and taking notes.
Oh, I guess I just had you pushed off screen. There you are. Anyway, so then the kinesthetic is the one that the kinesthetics have a lot of movement in their body, and they gesture a lot. There's a lot of it's the tactile, on the move learning system and representational system. Like for instance, when I'm learning these new computer things like a video editing program, I have to repeat it kinesthetically. I have to move my body through the process multiple times before it starts to take. And the kinesthetics will use words like, oh, it feels like, what I need to do is, or it hurts me to hear that, or I feel crunched up into a corner. So they'll express with their words what it feels like to be in their body when they're in a certain process. This has vast impact for students in schools. we could spend a whole cohort just on that. Well, I'll give you an example. I had a student that I worked with one time, and he was very strong kinesthetic. So if you look at the chart, I don't know if you could, I'll use my pointer. So if you look at the chart, he would study his material at school. He was like a junior in high school, and he would store it all visually. All of his notes, everything was stored visually, but he had test phobia. And so he would get into the testing situation and he would go get nervous down here. Then he would say to himself, if I fail the test, my dad's going to kill me. Then he'd get more nervous. Then he'd get more self-talk. This is going to be hard. I don't know if I can do it. And he would start looping like this. And guess what happened when he did that?
Froze.
Hmm?
Nothing happened. He wasn't able to learn, or
He couldn't get up there.
yeah.
He cut himself off from where he had the material stored. And his mom thought I was a magician because I told him, when you get into the test situation, look at the ceiling. Never take your eyes off stay up. And he started acing every test after that. We just had to cut that off, this downward movement. And I've worked with hundreds of women who use their auditory system to self-talk in a negative way. That was a stupid thing I did. I can't believe I did that. What was I thinking? And the tonal qualities, it's all really important. It's the tonal qualities and the words that are being said that can. So if you start self-talking like this, then you start feeling bad, then you start saying more bad things, then you start feeling worse. And so when we get into a negative loop like that, it can just put you in bed, literally.
Would it be the same thing of looking up left to try to interrupt that pattern?
Yeah, you know how what I noticed when I first learned this, like your desire to go get a meditation. I noticed that when one of the ways I corrected this for myself was an auditory interrupt, meditation music, nature sounds, any kind of. So if I turn on an Eastern chant, for instance, I can't listen to that chant and self-talk at the same time. So it fills that in. And then after a while, I became so conscious of what I was saying to myself. I still do it. Like when nobody shows up at 7:00 and I go, oh, they don't like me anymore. Weird stuff like that we do. But it doesn't last long and it doesn't take me down like it used to. So it seems like a really simple picture, but we can deconstruct almost any decision you make, any learning pattern you have. They start going in sequences. Okay. Like you might have an idea that you get a picture of something that you want. Let's keep it simple, like a new toaster, I really want a new toaster. So you go online and you get some pictures of new toasters. And then the more you get closer to what you want, you get a little zing of excitement and you say, oh yeah, that's the toaster I want. And so you start a decision. Every decision you make happens in sequence.
And it always includes all three?
Most of the time. It just doesn't, like, I'll show you a couple of things. We have so much dirt in the air here that I'm just like, whoa. So this is an example. I worked with a lady one time and when you draw it out, it looks like a long mathematical formula by the time you get through it. But she would see something. She came to me because she couldn't make decisions. She hadn't bought a pair of shoes in 2 years. She wanted a different job, all kinds of stuff going on there. And so, I'm sorry.
Just rest for a moment. Just Jamie, just rest for a moment. Maybe we could share something that we're feeling about that while you just recover.
Yeah, it doesn't help to talk through it.
No.
Well, I'm fascinated to find out about the decision process and learn what mine is, and then learn to interrupt, like what you just said, putting the music on to calm the mind so the mind can't be in the spin cycle.
The other thing, oh, it's weird. I haven't had a choking fit for a while.
Oh no.
Well, all the dust in the air, you said.
Yeah, we have road construction going on.
And then the winds are blowing as well.
Yeah. So I have a mint. I'll have a mint. So this woman, she had a pattern going where she would see, and it didn't matter whether it was about shoes, a job change, a new house, whatever. She would go visual, see something she wanted. She would go kinesthetic, get a little excited about it, maybe adjust the picture a little bit or make it brighter and get more excited about it. And then she would go back and forth a couple times. And then she would go auditory and talk herself out of it. And when I worked with the sequence, she was talking herself out of it in her mother's voice. Oh, you don't need another pair of shoes. What do you need another pair of shoes for? And the sequence ran the same with whatever.
So in a moment when you're feeling clear, how often is that a big factor when you're hearing another voice? You know, she was hearing her mother's voice, and how often does that kind of come in where you're
It's not just the voice, it's the tonal quality.
right?
If you're calling yourself stupid and you sound like that bully on the playground that called you stupid.
And it's a remembering, so you're going back into
Yeah. And it triggers you to feel like that bad child again or that not enough.
yeah.
And then everything. And then that is so I'm going to walk away for a minute. Okay.
Yeah. We can chat among ourselves.
Jean,
Yeah,
can I ask you a question?
sure.
Okay. So when you said you had insomnia, like, and you had to get your phone to play um meditations.
Or sometimes I listen to an audiobook, like Eckhart Tolle just puts me to sleep. Like I'll put on the joy of being and I'm out. Like
Yeah. Yeah. I know someone who actually makes comedy. His name's Joe Parra, and he does podcasts to talk you to sleep. I would recommend him.
okay.
Aside from having your phone close to you, which is not
Yeah.
ideal. But so my curious question is, what does your brain sound like when you have to get up and do that typically? Or is that the reason is your brain won't stop talking?
Uh yeah, and like I feel like I after like a half an hour of sitting there trying to focus on my breath, trying to like just notice and observe the thoughts, then I'm like, I need to get to sleep. Like enough of this shit. Like it's now 2 a.m. Like I have to go. Like, so I'll get up and usually get my phone and then either oftentimes just an audiobook. sometimes a meditation, but just an audiobook that like Eckhart Tolle, someone who their voice just puts me to sleep.
Yeah.
So I'll start listening. I don't even get very far at all, and then I fall asleep.
Because at
Um,
that point, you're probably super tired anyways.
I was
Because,
tired before I got into bed, and I journaled before and I'm falling asleep and then I lay down and I'm like, oh no, what, why? Why? Like my whole body is fatigued, but my mind is just busy.
okay,
And yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
I think
sense.
I'm recovering.
but it's interesting to note, what does the tonal quality of the um auditory voice sound like? And
Yeah. So sometimes I get that too, like brain won't stop. Like I'm sleepy, but I can't fall asleep. And there's a couple things I try. Um, One is not go to sleep. I'll actually get up and like move around, like jump up and down. But if it's my brain that's just like being mean, then I try something that I think Jamie mentioned, which was like hum in my mind, or sometimes I count instead of thinking. I I count in my brain or I hum in my brain,
Mhm.
and so sometimes that allows my brain to get sleepy too. Um, I'd also recommend extra sleepy time tea before bed as well. That that actually does really make like makes your eyes heavy, is what it is. It's like
but
makes
my
you
eyes
feel like
already
you
are
want to go to
heavy.
sleep.
My eyes are heavy, and that's why I don't want to get up and turn on the light and read, because I'm so tired. I don't even want to sit up. I'm
And
Uh,
your
just,
brain is
so what, Jean, what is your brain doing then? Is it chattering?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
but
after a few minutes, I'll catch it. I go, wow, that was a long rant about that. And then it's off again. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there was so I kind of try to practice mindfulness and just being the observer of it, or bringing my focus to my breath.
Okay. So just try doing like Richard Bandler used to say, if people would just reverse morning with night, like when you first wake up and you go, oh, I don't want to get up, you know, and then at night you're going, like, if you like force your chatter to slow down.
yeah, I think that's what like humming in your mind, or instead
Yeah.
of noticing the thoughts and being like, oh, my thoughts, like just letting them rant.
Yeah. And letting them slow down. Like
You
there used to be a church song that I liked. It was like, peace is flowing like a river, you know, flowing out for you and me. And so sometimes if I have chatter, I repeat that really, really slowly. So there's ways to interrupt that.
Oh yeah. And then the like number one mindfulness thing to do when you're laying in your bed trying to sleep at the time you're supposed to be sleeping is saying like this is there's nothing else I should be doing except sleeping right now.
And then
And
say it very slowly.
yes. And just reminding ourselves I'm in bed, I'm safe in bed to sleep.
Yeah. And
That's
then Helena knows Jinshin Jitsu, and I like holding all 10 fingers one
Yeah.
by one.
And
That's that.
the thumb is really good. Just if you're really anxious or your mind's going, just even holding the thumb is really
If I have a busy mind, I slow it down and then I hold my fingers
right.
one by one, and I usually don't even get to the 10th one before I'm
Oh, you
gone.
do it one at a time. You hold each finger separately.
Yeah, and
Okay.
has Helena ever taught you that, where you feel the pulse in your hand and then you feel the pulse in your finger and you wait till they come together? It's a
Hmm.
harmonizing
Yeah.
hold.
that one's new for
Yeah, it's
And
and it and I
something
guess Milt used to say it works really good for jet lag too.
Yeah, I was going to say that if you're on a plane and you just hold each finger for maybe 5-10 minutes each, even while you're watching a movie or something, just keep holding your fingers, and it really helps with jet lag, and it helps you to be more relaxed as well.
And if you pay attention to it and you feel those two pulses come together, it also draws all your attention to that pulse.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, we could spend
Thank
a
you.
whole night on how to get to sleep at night, but I want to keep going on our strategies.
Okay.
But think about it. So if you start thinking about it, there is a strategy that you're using for everything, a sequence. So even keeping yourself up at night, talking yourself out of a decision. This particular woman that I was working with, when we got to the piece, and hers was funny because I started scrambling the auditory, like I'd have her mother hear her mother's voice like Donald Duck, wah, 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 and just messing with it. And so we interrupted that piece of the sequence, and the whole pattern changed then. In fact, I never saw her again. She sold all her mother's antiques, quit her job, and moved to Albuquerque. And I thought, well, that must have been a good session. She calls me from Albuquerque.
That's cool.
So we're not consciously aware of this, but if we have low self-esteem, it's a sequence. If we fly into anger, it's a sequence. If everything that we doing, it's like a dominoes going down. One thing is connecting with another in a sequence.
And is it always the same sequence for everything?
No, sometimes though, a pattern becomes a pattern because we run the same sequence. They're not random. So we do have personal patterns and sequences that we've accumulated. We even have sequences for resiliency and sequences for bravely taking on something that you're afraid of. And we have sequences for it all unfolds in tiny connected bits. And once you sort of see that and really get it, that it's not an accident, it really is like dominoes, that one domino that went down, you couldn't help but knock the other one down, And so if you don't want those dominoes to go down, then you need to slow everything down and really pay attention to how that sequence is flowing. And there's a whole nother layer of this that, is too much depth to go into here. But these are called modalities: the visual modality, the auditory modality, and then underneath each are submodalities. And so it's not just that you see pictures, it's where you see them, how close, how far, how much movement, is there color, what. So the modality of seeing a picture has lots of mini qualities about it. And the auditory, the act of talking to yourself or talking through something to yourself, how you respond to that will depend on the tonal qualities. Like I've had groups before where, in fact, let's just do it here. Think of something that you say to yourself when things don't go well. And just notice, where do you hear that? Does the voice come from in front of you, from above, from the side, from behind? Where do you hear that?
I felt it from like behind my right side.
Okay. It'll be different for everybody, but there's a location for it.
Well, I feel it in my body right here.
Okay. And if it's something you're saying to yourself, what is the tonal quality of it? Is it loud, soft, giggly, harsh?
Quiet and shaky.
Hmm?
Quiet and shaky.
Okay. Is it your voice or somebody else's voice?
I think it's mine.
Okay. So these, we're not used to paying this close of attention to those tiny bits of sensory bits, but they are the triggering factors. Like if somebody, it's just as if somebody came up to you and said, "You idiot," and it would hit you and trigger you. And so if you're doing it internally, it's the same thing. You get hit and it triggers you, and you go to the kinesthetic, or you go make pictures of all the times you did a stupid thing.
I can't tell if it's like uh I think a lot of judgmental thoughts come and like self-criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell um whose voice it is. I'm guessing it's mine, but you know, yeah.
Okay, so what are the words? And would you like turn to Kelsey and say exactly the same words to her?
Oh, I would never say these words to someone else.
You know how many hundreds of times I've had people try that? They always say the same thing. I would never say those words to somebody else.
Right.
Why would you say them to yourself?
Right.
If you can't, in your heart, say them to Kelsey. So
Yeah.
that
Oh,
that it's
it's
a
been there.
discipline of the mind. If it's been a lot of times, so let's say everything above here is conscious. A lot of these things are running in unconscious programs, and they're changing your heart rate, they're changing your feelings, they're changing your body, they're changing everything. And so to slow it down, and everybody I've worked with, we've eventually been able to slow it down and bring it to consciousness. What am I saying to myself? Would I say it to somebody else? What is the vocal quality? What if I heard it in Minnie Mouse's voice? Oh, you stupid idiot.
Yeah, I guess the thing that pops into my mind because it's so embedded for so long, like is I'm guessing it's my siblings, my older siblings, and because they were merciless. Like
Uh-huh.
so that anyway, that negative uh talked about me in pretty much every aspect. So
So when
yeah.
I work with people and we do these integration, I can't remember, I've worked with you, right, Jean? We did a session once.
Yeah, we did. I yeah.
So and every program can be reprogrammed.
Mhm.
Say it again. Every program can be reprogrammed, but it can only be reprogrammed if it's brought to conscious awareness, if it's not running in the depth of who you are. And so, like a lot of times when I'm working with people, I want to get, I heard this Lakota woman speak one time, and she was talking about talking to children. She said children's spirits like fly away every day when they get up. And in order to call them back at the end of the day, we have to use sweetheart words like, oh, my darling, oh, my dear one. And so a lot of times when we're doing integration work and we have anchored our grown self and brought those things to consciousness, and we can look at like that little gene that got treated that way, a lot of times all it takes is sweetheart words. Oh, my dear, you're so tired. My darling, you need to have some rest, you know? You change the tonal quality, you change the words, and or like if like even if you do something that just is so stupid, but you go, oh my girl, I'm so glad you tried that. What a brave, beautiful girl you are to have tried that. Do you feel the difference?
Yeah.
If that auditory, and I cannot believe how many women do this, that it's like a battering ram on your sense of self. And when we begin to reprogram that, we don't have to do it perfectly. And if you beat yourself up thoroughly, then go to your chair and redo it. Make the movie over. Say, oh, there's that girl again who just couldn't quite get it right this time. And the more you do that, the more it becomes reprogrammed.
So, for example, if I catch myself with those like thoughts that I wouldn't would never say to someone else, then to remove, like, to take a moment and imagine that I'm talking to me saying, "Oh, sweetheart, you're learning.
Yes,
gonna
yes.
take you're
And
doing."
making mistakes is perfectly natural. And what a wonderful thing that you took that on. And honestly, this is, when I think about, well, a lot of parenting, but then a lot of siblings, and then a lot of school children, and then a lot of teachers just battered you with that, you know? And so we have to take the time to ease in a brand new voice. I did this one time I was speaking at a women's event called Sister Sojourn, and they had just come out of this laughing yoga session. Have you ever heard of laughing yoga? So I had them. So I thought I'd walk into the middle of that energy, and so I had them go around to each other and use sweetheart words. Like, oh, my dear, you are so gorgeously beautiful. And, oh, I love you. And people were all over the room in this really, you know, laughing yoga energy doing this. And some of them couldn't do it. Some of them, it was so hard for them to use any kind of sweetheart words. So then I had everybody sit down, come out of that wild energy and sit down. And I said, now imagine a 9-year-old self in front of you. She's kind of gawky. Maybe her hair's a little stringy. She's probably scrawny. And you're looking at her and you use sweetheart words. You say, oh, my precious girl, my beautiful, beautiful girl. And half the room was in tears. This is how battered we've gotten. The wrong body, the wrong mind, the wrong action, the wrong this, the wrong that. And we have to clear that out. And every time though, and this comes from heart math, I think I mentioned this before, a single negative thought can bring your T cells down for up to 6 hours. A
Oh
single
my goodness.
negative blast to yourself can drop your T cells for 6 hours. And if you don't feel well or you have health issues, but you're doing that to yourself, it's chicken and egg, what came first, you know? So it's this is really, really advanced NLP. Like, honestly, when I take apart a sequence for somebody, it looks like some weird mathematical formula. Visual internal, visual external, added to auditory internal and auditory external. But by just simply really noticing how you're putting your pictures, words, and feelings together, bring them into consciousness and slow them down You'll be amazed at how much you pick up. The other night I was scrolling on my phone before I went to bed, and of course, you know who's on the screen a lot these days, our esteemed president. And it came up in my Facebook feed, and I thought, oh, put this away. Bad. Because I didn't want to start kicking myself into a reactive sequence, you know. So let's go back to some generalizations. So I want you to we'll do this with vocal quality a little bit. Sit up really nice and straight and say, "Good morning, America."
Good morning, America.
Okay, so a lot of the visuals, their voices happen up here, and you can hear it. You listen to people, it's really interesting. It comes from the chest up. So the auditory somewhere in the middle, but now slink down a little bit. Get comfortable and say, "Good morning, America."
Good morning, America.
Could you hear the difference? So let's do it intentionally. We'll pick something besides "Make America Great." Like so from here up, say, "The sky is beautiful today." Say it out loud.
The sky is beautiful today.
Sky is beautiful today.
The sky is beautiful today.
Can you feel it, the voice coming from here?
I always have to intentionally speak from my diaphragm.
I know, because yours is naturally there. So that's why we're messing with it a little bit. So we're going to do 3 levels, though. We're going to do one close to the throat. Now try having it come right from your center. The sky is beautiful today.
Sky is beautiful today.
The sky is beautiful today.
The sky is beautiful today.
Okay. You're still up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then now way down in your almost below to the lower chakra, below the diaphragm even. The sky is beautiful today.
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 Okay. So even moving down even slowed most of you down. And so, and I just heard a weird report that I'd never heard this before, but it was a podcast or something, that if somebody's speaking from the diaphragm, you feel like they're more of an authority. Somebody speaking from here, you feel more like they care about you. And somebody speaking from here, you feel like they have more control issues.
It's constricted. Yeah.
But that they also are more inspirational. So
What's
inspirational, heart, authority. I mean, most of us don't pay that close attention to where's that voice coming from. I just thought that was kind of intriguing that they would make statements like assumptions like that.
Yeah. There's a guy called James something. He wrote a book called Breath, which is quite interesting. You might find that interesting. I haven't read the whole thing, but he's talking about how any constrictions you've got and how the way you breathe and the way you don't breathe maybe has a effect on you.
Yeah.
In many ways.
But I've seen a lot of difference in, so the visuals very often are really speedy. And it's a more like they can go to high stress quicker, you know. And then the kinesthetics, it's more like how it's all feeling. So and in the long run, it's being able to vary when needed. that counts, or noticing if you're doing something bad to yourself in one of your systems, just stop it, stop it. As a coach counselor, this is invaluable to me because I may not know what their map is giving them, but I can watch these sequences flow. You can see them. And so when I see somebody stopping on either a picture, a word, or a feeling, or flowing, going through a sequence, like let's say somebody, said something that made you think of, oh, like you fell down the stairs, Then you said to yourself, oh, that was really cute. That was coordinated. And then you felt bad. That's a sequence. And so if you keep flowing that sequence, it becomes a pattern. If you keep flowing the pattern, it gets hardwired in.
So, I don't know where I was the other day. I think it was probably in a workshop. I was probably doing a constellation, and someone started getting speaking really fast and getting kind of agitated. And then I think I just put my hand on them and I said, just slow your breath down.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be able to. I'm just wondering about. I wouldn't do that if I was in a situation and I saw someone doing that and I had no connection with them. I wouldn't have the authority to do that. But I'm wondering if it's okay to do it if I am in a situation where I'm connected to that person.
Well, if you just come into the habit of noticing the pace at which people are moving.
Yeah.
It's as important as eye movements almost. What's the pace?
Yeah.
And, you can actually change somebody's pace by just doing something outside of it.
Yeah.
Like you think of the new mommy, that's got a little baby and the baby gets upset and they start patting them.
Right.
Oh, don't cry, baby. Don't cry, baby. And baby starts screaming and they go, don't cry, baby. Don't cry, baby. Don't cry, baby. Don't cry, baby. And pretty soon they've got themselves like, boom, at a high stress level rather than pacing it down again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, that's like advanced level.
Yeah.
That goes back to the mirroring. Like you said, you were put off by Tony Robbins, who said that he could make somebody come over to his table.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you watch sometime and you'll see somebody who's really high visual and they're talking so fast and their ideas are flowing and it's all go, 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 go. And a lot of the people are just withdrawing from it.
Right. It's
They
too
can't
much.
connect
It's
with it.
overwhelming.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of times the speaker, if it's a workshop or whatever, doesn't even notice that they have lost a good portion of their audience because they can't process like she does.
Yeah.
So let's practice. I'm gonna if you need to, if you have a piece of paper, just make a circle and put up to the left a V, down to the left an A, and off to the right a K. If you want to just keep it in front of you, but I want to do some.
Can you say it again? Sorry, I lost which. So a V is up to the.
Yeah, and when you're practicing this, practice it on somebody else's face. Don't try to figure your own out.
Right.
So if you're looking at me,
Yeah.
the V is up to your right. And the auditory would be my down left, your down right. And then the kinesthetic is the other side. And the
other side of what? Wait. Down or up with kinesthetic?
Down.
Okay.
I've worked with some people who, who came from trauma or severe abuse, and they have shut their kinesthetic sense off. And I had to teach them how to re-access that, because the kinesthetic really is kind of your radar, your sonar. It says, oh, go this way, go that way. Yes, no. So a lot of really, really good strategies that high level people have, they'll go visual, auditory, kinesthetic. And then when they get to kinesthetic, there'll be something that says yes or no. And they learn to trust that. I'll tell you another story. So if you know me, I'm visual. So a good strategy for decision making, for instance, take a look at what you want. Talk it over with yourself. Is it the right price? Is this the best time for me to buy a car or whatever? Is it the right decision? And then you go kinesthetic and go yes or no. And some people, if they skip that auditory, they just go see by, see by, see by. And if they skip the kinesthetic, they might buy the most gorgeous couch for the right price, and it doesn't feel good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit. Yeah.
So when a piece of your little 3-part sequence is missing, something's not going to be balanced.
So what I've talked about, this centered self. So would you say, for me, I mean, I'm just wondering if this is a good way to go about things, is just to get really quiet and center myself and just pause. It's just like find a space before I make any decisions or anything, or if I'm worried about something.
Mm-hmm. So if you guys are watching Helena, she's giving you everything you need to know about her system.
It might help to make us all larger
I'm
than.
going to. I wanted to make sure you had this picture before I did that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'll stop share. Okay. So we know this about Helena because we hang out with her a lot now, that she's about the body. And about the body means what? Kinesthetic. How it feels, how it's put in the body, how it moves in the body, and so her strongest representational system is kinesthetic. It doesn't mean she also is pretty good visually, not as good as other people.
Right.
But when kinesthetic is her driver.
Right.
And for Kelsey, the visual, I don't know. Let's ask. I have to decide whether you're visual or kinesthetic. I know you're very visual. And so let me just have you tell a story, okay?
Okay.
Okay. And we'll watch. And I know how awkward it is to be watched like that, but you just forget about it and do your natural thing. So tell me what one of your coworkers said the other day when you were painting on the pie shelf.
Um,
So she got a picture, and my guess would be that she sees the pie shelf and she likes her painting,
mhm.
right? So she goes to the part of the brain to recall the image. Her movement was not way up, but a lot of times they're not. And let me go into it. Do you
Okay.
remember the Danbury house?
Yes.
Okay, can you describe it for me? Okay,
Yep.
here's another thing to notice. Did you see how quick she said yes? The picture of the house was in her mind before her mouth could even say it. It's that fast. Okay. So just describe it for me, or describe what was your favorite room in that house. Now she's got the straight on stare.
Oh, I thought she was looking left.
Little bit left, but kind of straight on as well.
Yeah. She's got a defocused look.
I
Yeah,
don't
she went in. Yeah.
I don't really have a favorite room, but my brain did have it immediately did have a I'm hiding my self view so I'm not distracted. Okay.
Okay.
So when you ask that question, I have to think
Okay.
because okay, I have the favorite.
Okay. Just describe it for us.
When you walk into the side door of the house, there's a little entryway with 2 steps down and tile.
Okay.
And if you're entering a hallway that if you look straight down, you see the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and then a hallway passes through the middle of it. And right in between the kitchen and the hallway that passes the middle of it, perpendicularly, um, above that, there's a little shelf,
Okay.
and it's gated off with wood. And through that gate, you see the upstairs hallway.
Okay.
So in this one spot in the house, you see a hallway crossing through the middle of the house, all the way down to the other side of the house and upstairs.
Okay.
And my favorite place would be on that little wood shelf that was gated off. And if you were to crawl onto it, you would no longer be safe because there was no gate to keep you from falling off of this shelf. But we never had anything on it. It was just empty.
Uh-huh.
And I would do that sometimes, and I would sit on it, which
Okay.
was probably not safe. So
And did anybody else sit there with you?
um not that I recall immediately. No.
Okay. So see her searching. Okay. And so a lot of it was very, very visual. And then she dropped auditory once. And so and we are very aware that this is awkward to be stared at when you're trying to tell a story.
I felt
But
very comfortable actually.
okay. So and what about her body? What was her body doing?
A lot of hand gestures.
That's how she was activating the kinesthetic part.
And kind of at the beginning, before she went into the story, her body was really moving a lot and was kind
Uh-huh.
of, yeah,
Yeah.
doing a little dance almost.
So the ideal is like if you're strong visually, auditorily, and kinesthetic, you really want your systems to serve you the best that they can. So if whatever system you might be trashing or not utilizing or not going to, that's also like a thing that we want to be really aware of. I saw her use all 3 systems. I saw her strongly visual. In another setting, like if I was just chatting with her and we were talking about Charlotte, you know, maybe imagining petting Charlotte or giving Charlotte a bath, it's going to have a different response.
That one definitely felt kinesthetic.
Yeah, yeah. And then a lot of
Because I
times,
immediately had the image of bathing Charlotte and like the things, but and how it felt to do
uh-huh,
that.
uh-huh,
So the image was there almost instantly, not as instant as the house,
yeah,
but then I felt bathing her
okay.
the the most.
Charlotte's a doggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering whether it was a dog or a cat or a
Little doggy.
child.
Dog, a little dog.
I have advantages with her because I know where she used to live and I know her
Right.
dog.
So I want to ask what were the auditory cues that you saw? Was it the word she used?
Yeah, and I think all she did was go and maybe repeat what I said. I'm not sure. That's me interpreting. I just saw one movement. A lot of times, if you ask people a question, you might see that first, like, auditory movement of like repeating the question to themselves before responding.
Oh, okay. So like with her eye movements, she did, and then that
Yeah,
went. Okay.
yeah. And I never actually saw her go down right, deep right. I
Right.
could see the kinesthetic movement, and I mean, I saw a lot of kinesthetic response, but I didn't actually see the eye movement. But this is a false setting, you know. So now, uh, should I do more, or should one of you guys ask somebody?
I can continue.
Or we could each, yeah,
No, I want
Or if you'd
everybody
like
to have a chance.
okay,
yeah.
Should I
ask a
ask it?
question.
Yeah.
We'll just like, okay, I'll ask Jean. It's probably easier because I've done this a million times. Like, what was your favorite subject in school?
Foreign languages.
Okay. And what grade were you in when you started the foreign languages?
7th.
Okay. Okay, are you seeing the movement? What was your, tell me
Do you want
one,
me to take my glasses off so you
yeah,
can see my eyes?
that'd be
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Tell me one story about being in a class where you were,
Well, like my one of my favorite classes.
yeah,
My Spanish teacher, she made it super fun. We had game days. There was games where we real simple fun games that we all split into small groups and played
okay,
and the language words.
okay. And so she's kind of got her eyes fixed and focused too. A little bit of movement. Um, what is your favorite season? Visual again. So
You gotta see it. Like
yeah,
you
she's
think
running the
about a
season.
I'm
time.
running through all the seasons. I
Yeah,
know
I know.
winter, like that one's out, but
You could almost see her running the slideshow.
But I'm
Okay, and there's
excited to
winter,
let her
there's spring, there's
I'm excited to let her really think it through though and find the
yeah,
answer.
okay.
I
Um,
think
I
Spring.
want to see if I can get her to access her kinesthetic. So did you have any pets?
yes.
Okay. Tell me about one of your
Wait, I want me to
pets.
tell you about my pet now. I have a pet now.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So Chester is a rescue. He is 20 pounds of terrier fluff, mixed breed, and he attracts a lot of attention.
okay, okay. So we still didn't see a kinesthetic movement, but you could feel it. So, um, just drop your eyes down right. You're right one time. But and tell me, what does it feel like when you talk to yourself the way that you do sometimes?
Uh, it feels awful and
So do you notice the facial changes that we're seeing also? Okay,
yeah.
so the color went out of your face and the muscles went flat a little bit. Okay, you don't
And
have to go there.
yeah.
I don't like to put people there. But yeah, that's do you have highs, like kinesthetic highs where you're just like want to go dance in the street or something?
Oh, when I was playing pickleball before I had my
Okay,
injury. Yeah, I was
okay.
just
Now did you see the color come back up? So interesting. So we just we don't have to probe at any of it. We can just observe it, you know. In fact, people would get really annoyed if you started trying to track their systems to go, what did you see? You know, what did you say to yourself? No, it has to be much smoother than that. So, Helena, you want to try one?
Sure.
You already
I
gave us a
thought,
spontaneous one.
So just to finalize, mine was clearly visual.
Yeah, you're very visual. What kind of work have you done in your life?
A lot of different jobs, but so a lot of different things. I worked in IT. I worked teaching. I taught yoga.
Okay.
And I was very aware of had to give a lot of auditory and visual cues for people,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. And I think you and Kelsey are organized very similarly.
Well, like ever since we've been in the group together, like
You
it
know
just
her.
feels a little bit like I don't know, there's a feeling.
Yeah.
And so it's funny to hear you say you've worked in IT.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you know, the other things,
Well,
because I've done a lot of
I'm
people
not
work
sure
too.
why this is, but likes like.
Mhm.
We like people like us. But then for some very bizarre reason, we go marry somebody opposite. I think it must be an unconscious urge to fill ourselves out a little bit or something.
Yeah.
I also noticed like how fast I talk. And so when you talked about slowing, I'm like, oh boy, I have to really be mindful for that.
Yeah, like everything that you mentioned, um, like hospitality and IT, everyone talks so quickly, and it's like it doesn't have to be such a fast thing. In fact, it should slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's a common thing in those places. And if just like that study you were talking about where your voice is, like
Mm-hmm.
the and then the baby, calming the
Mm-hmm.
baby, it's like IT is all about problems, and so we need to slow down so that the people who are speaking quickly about the problem that they need fixed right now, and it's like one, that's not true, and two, we're gonna find the solution,
Right.
and then you go from there. And
And
uh,
and like anytime you're working with in any capacity somebody new, take a mental note. You don't have to copy them, but if they're slow, go slow. If they're a little speedier, go a little speedier.
and
Vary
that
your own behavior to theirs, and then you won't be so likely to lose them.
and that I do a lot, but it feels more like, and it's on accident, and it's very subconscious. It's probably something
Yeah.
I've done my entire life as like a safety net mechanism.
Right.
But um, so I'm trying to like withdraw from that a little bit because it's kind of like putting that barrier between you and your energy and them.
Are you talking
Um,
about the fast talking?
I'm talking about like mirroring, like you were suggesting.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to do that less because there are ways to not lose them without having to mirror,
Right.
but it's like that extra step. Like the easier step is to be a little bit like them,
Yeah.
but then the next step would be to become and actually help them come to you,
Yeah.
like meet them.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And so without knowing we're doing this, we're all mirroring and leading anyway, you
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
either leading or following. So it happens so naturally. It happens all around you all the time. And so just tuning your awareness to notice it a little bit more um, can improve communication. Like
Yeah, just being that
and
awareness.
I know Jody wouldn't mind if I told you this, but she had me review a session she did one time, and the man was really auditory, and Jody kept saying, "Well, if you look at it this way, and if you could just see, can't you see? You know." Anyway, I was just sitting there laughing because I was reviewing it. I wasn't in the session, and I was saying to Jody, "No, he doesn't see.
He doesn't see, yeah.
He doesn't see." but the really elegant communicators will go to the system. They just do it unconsciously, you know, go to the
I
system that flows, makes it all align the best.
I just thought of a question that you could ask to try and see the visual, kinesthetic, and auditory.
Okay.
And it's try to think of a I don't know if you can prompt this, but whenever someone can't think of a word and they're trying to find
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
and you can't really prompt that, so never mind. But it was just happening to me, and I was, looking up, being like, where's this word? What is this word? And you're searching for, and the reason I think that would be interesting to use for that is because, like, people always find themselves talking it out with someone while looking for where they've seen it before at the same time. So that one feels extremely auditory.
Hmm. Hmm. And you can even practice, sentences like, well, let's look everything over. Let's look at everything, talk it over, and then we'll, get a feel for what we're doing.
Which
Covers
is
all the
just,
bases.
it feels so well rounded. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when you say that to someone, I feel like they would feel taken care of,
Yeah. Well,
basically.
even with Wayne, my first husband, once he and I went to our first NLP training together. And I was like, oh, that's why I would feel so dismissed by him when they do that auditory thing. So, and I would say something like, do you want to go to a movie Friday night? And he'd go, you know, and
He was thinking about it.
I'm like, oh, go ahead, don't talk to me,
Mm.
and, but I didn't understand. And it was like a light bulb. So then I would say to him, I'd really like to go to a movie on Friday night. Why don't you talk it over with yourself and let me know? And he'd be like, okay, come back when you have an answer. It's fun. It's really fun though to bring your awareness way more up to capture these different things that are being offered all the time, freely offered.
It is. And I just soaked them all up like a sponge,
Hmm.
because of all the things it can do. It can be a safety net, and it can be detrimental to your energy,
Right.
Yeah.
or it can help you understand yourself, or make others feel more understood. And it's just this building block. It's
Hmm.
a foundational piece that I just can't get enough of.
Hmm.
And it's a little scary sometimes because you don't want people to feel like they're being picked apart. And you don't want to make mistakes where people feel like you're just trying to fix them and you don't
Right.
actually want to understand them. And that's where auditory is dangerous because the words you use, because words matter.
Right.
Yeah.
They really
But
do.
it's not just the words though. It's the tonal quality,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
And
placement of the words. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Which
so
but if we've seen quite a few times now, not just tonight, but in earlier nights, how fast that response. If you say a word or use a tone or make a move that somebody reacts to and you're paying attention, you'll know it. you know, they'll 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 show it to you right away, and then you
that
can adjust.
so I want to have the repertoire for the right words for the auditory to build that in.
yeah.
I love the example you gave with talking to your
Like
first husband, and it was but most people would not say talk to yourself. They would be like, it would feel awkward, at least for me in a business meeting, or if it's a professional environment, it'd be like,
Mhm.
why don't you talk to yourself and let me know? Like
A,
maybe you
a,
could.
a really simple one is like if you're wanting to be understood, you've just explained something, and you can say, do you hear? Do you hear? Or do you see? And so when it matches, it's like a magnet. when it matches with what they actually do, it goes boom. So it's mostly about varying your own behavior, but I have worked with some really, because auditory is my least, I'm not very good auditorily. Like if you give me 3 verbal instructions, I'll forget the first one by the time you get to the third one. But that doesn't mean I can't pay attention and vary my behavior, even though that's not my strength. A lot of people, what they do when they're like real estate agents or people in business, they just tend to avoid the people that are not in the same system. I'll just stay away from them, you know.
I just thought of one. How does that sound? Like Friday night. Yeah.
Exactly. How does that sound? and then with the auditories especially, don't expect an answer right away, and don't finish their sentences. Because if you're really serious about getting a well thought, most auditories, and I've interviewed a bunch just to see what it's like to be an auditory in a visual world, they feel cut off. They feel like nobody ever gives them a chance to think something through. They tend to want to be, in an office somewhere rather than in social gatherings. It's just like they're and they're smart. It's not about who's smart, you know. The auditory processing tends to be very thorough for problem solving.
Yeah.
Helena?
So my husband used to say he would be in a conversation with me and a friend. When he was able to explain it afterwards, but we'd be like this, and be like, yeah. And he said he'd be like,
Yeah.
still working on the first statement, and he was still way back with that first statement. We'd kind of moved on, like to 3 new subjects or something. But he was really able to explain how he was really listening and really wanting to be involved, but he was just like, oh, wait a minute, I just need some space here and I don't know whether he probably was auditory, or is.
They really strong auditories really have trouble tracking strong visuals, especially when they're with their friends.
Yeah. Oh, we were just like, my friend and I would be like, yeah.
I used to tell a joke in my groups. I would say, well, the visuals will go into a fabric store and look at color and print and weight of the cloth, and the kinesthetics will go like this.
Oh, it feels so good. Yeah.
And the auditories wouldn't be caught dead in the fabric store.
Actually, if they were, they would be figuring out how much it'll stretch when it's being sewn, how
much yardage is needed.
Shrinkage, all everything down to the end, where we just pick and then we go, oh no, this is gonna snag, right?
And really important to not make anybody feel like one is better than the other, because they're not. They're just different. And the more we can learn about the differences, the better communicators we become.
Yeah.
And then this little bit that we got into tonight of sequences and patterns and how they form, that's a master class of really trying to understand that. But when we go into how to ask good questions, I'll probably roll a little bit more of that into that. Because when we do the outcome frame next week, we're going to, and I thought about doing the linguistics of neurolinguistics, but I think I don't want to overwhelm you in 6 weeks either, But at really knowing how to ask good questions and patiently wait for the answers and watch what answers you're getting, it just seems so critically important to me.
Yeah.
So, but we are at 8:39. That went so fast.
That last bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But we didn't get to quiz Helena. Do we need to do that, or did we get you on the sly?
I'll just say one thing, which really doesn't relate to me telling a story, but I noticed, and I told this to a friend who's not as happy as I am in my life. You know, and I said, you know, I get up in the morning and I look up, I go in the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror and I say, hi. And I find myself just doing that
Uh-huh.
nearly every morning. Well, hi, how
Uh-huh.
are you doing, sweetheart? You know, or honey, or whatever I say. And then I'm thinking about it in the evening. I'm slowing down. I'm tired.
Hmm.
So I don't have that same engagement with myself as I do in the morning.
That might be a good time for my darling.
Yeah,
It's bedtime, my darling.
yeah,
We should tuck you in tonight.
yeah.
The other day I was sitting here at this little desk, um, eating a little bit of pasta salad with a sundress on, and I hit the plate and just dumped the whole salad in my dress. And it was kind of sweet though, because my instant react action was, "Oh, that's not what we wanted to do. That wasn't exactly what we had in mind." There was no like dumb shit stuff or anything like that. It was just like, "Oh." I
Yeah.
actually put it right back in my bowl and ate it.
And cleaned your dress up
Yeah.
afterwards.
Oh, okay. So let's have a little goodnight go around though. I always like to close the circle again. I think next week everybody should be back. We'll see. And I will still process this one and send it out. And I will I'm going to send the outcome frame out ahead of time, but don't worry about it too much. There's not really a lot you could do other than just look at it. So
I think I've got it already when we were in the first
I
group.
think I
Yeah,
sent it to you. Yeah.
yeah. I'll
And then
check.
you got a good sheet on submodalities. I should find that and send that out. Remember when you and Jody and I met about,
Yeah,
or I could
yeah, I've
find
got
that
that
video.
too. Yeah, yeah,
I could,
I've got a little folder with things, or a big folder with things in.
yeah, that was a good session on submodalities. That when I'm working with any kind of trauma and also working with visioning, like people who don't have a good vision for themselves, it's usually so far out in the clouds that they can't see it. So all of these things, trauma is moving in and crushing you, and your vision is way out here where you can't see it. So working with all of that is the fun part.
Yeah.
All right. So should we say goodnight?
Yeah,
You all look more energized.
I was tired.
Yeah.
Brains are working.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
We're just saying goodnight.
Just say goodnight. Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
Night,
I
darling.
just want to say it was a very validating experience. Yes, I felt validated for my experience and also recognizing where, like with empathy, I can work to build skills to understand and meet people better in different styles. So
So I will tell you one thing. No practice, no progress.
So keep looking at screens, watching people interact,
Yeah, now
watching for eye movements, and
my choking fit is coming back.
have to
Okay.
stop talking.
So we can say goodbye. But yes, now you can have the eye movements to watch also. And just keep enfolding one more tool with another.
Right.
Listening for sequence, looking for sequence.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. This is lovely. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.